from the crypt.
Welcome, friends and fiends, to the Cryptique Podcast. My name's Kenny. I'm here with my co-host, Godden. And together, we're here to watch and review every horrific, often hilarious episode of the legendary HBO anthology series, Tales from the Crypt. This is our episode number 13, lucky number 13, season 2, episode 6, The Thing from the Grave is the episode we're going to be talking about today. It aired on May 8th, 1990. All right, so this is our episode 13, lucky number 13. So I got my Friday the 13th shirt on. I'm ready to rock and roll with number 13. Here we go. I'm also on the 13th floor of my two-story house. So here we go. By the way, this episode stars Miguel Ferrer, which I know him very well from RoboCop. He's Bob Morton. Have you seen RoboCop? He's the one who he's the one who makes RoboCop. He turns Alex Murphy into RoboCop.
Oh, yeah, I think I remember now the face.
Okay,
I look up who or which one was Miguel Ferrer.
Yeah. So yeah, he's been in quite a few things. He actually passed away a few years ago. Very, very sad. He wasn't even that old. I think he was like in his 60s or something like that. He wasn't that old, but I really liked seeing him on screen just because of my history with him with RoboCop. Before we get into this episode, I want to make sure I really, really hammer this home. We are here because we love this show, absolutely love this show, and we just want a place to express our thoughts, hopefully build a community around it. So if you're at home or walking your dog or driving your car or however you listen to this and you think we get something wrong or you see it differently or you have something to add, please reach out and let us know. If we get something wrong, that's to be expected. We probably will. We're not experts here. We're just here to kind of share our thoughts and build a community. So that's why we're here. So let's get on with the actual talking about the episode. But before we do, spoiler warning, we're going into the great details of this episode. So if you haven't seen it yet or you don't want it spoiled, this is your fair warning. All right. So let's start with the ancient scrolls. Inked in human blood, bound in human flesh. Synopsis on the back of the DVD box set here. What's this episode called? I gotta find it. I gotta flip through all these. It's called, there it is, The Thing from the Grave. A jilted Romeo murders his sweetie's suitor, but maybe there's such a thing as love that cannot die. And these box, as much as I love this box set, and I do, it's nicely put together. Gosh, these synopses are very, very short. So I actually have a different one. I wrote one myself here. Let me go through that one here. So here it is. A supermodel's jealous and abusive boyfriend, Mitch, murders her photographer, Devlin, over suspicions of the two having an affair. Little does Mitch know, however, that the night before, Devlin gave her a necklace that he claims keeps a promise made by anyone holding it. While holding it, he vows to always be there to protect her. Later, when she starts to suspect Mitch may have had something to do with Devlin's disappearance, Mitch plans to murder her as well. Sensing she's in danger, Devlin rises from the grave to keep his promise by any means necessary. Dun, dun, dun. Very spooky. Very, very spooky.
Very. But it won't fit in the box set though if you were to have that synopsis.
Right.
It's just too long.
Yeah, there's just so many episodes. It's too long. I think that's what it is. There's just so many episodes. They didn't have room. They had to kind of, they had to whittle it down, which is, it's fine. I mean, if you have already seen the episodes, I suppose it's enough to kind of get you rolling on like, oh yeah, it's this episode. But It definitely leaves some to be desired. Well, before we dive in, just, what are the general thoughts of this episode, Godden?
I enjoyed it. Mitch is definitely my favorite character, honestly. I mean, easily. But when you brought up the hits Miguel Ferrer and who that was, I'm like, oh, maybe he just had that in him to, bring out the character. Overall, it wasn't like the worst thing in the world, you know what I mean? It's a simple story. I didn't hate all the characters, I think the pacing's good.
Yeah, Miguel Ferrer, I think, carried this episode. He was he was exceptionally smarmy and just sleazy, and I liked him. I liked his character. Everybody else was pretty drab and boring. He was the light in this show, and the rest of it was just kind of really boring and bland. And even the main love interest in this, the one who ends up getting killed, he is not leading man material. He's not. If he made a promise to me, if I was a girl, a vulnerable woman, okay, and he came to me and vowed to always be there to protect me, in the back of my mind, I would be like, really? Are you sure? He just doesn't seem very leading man type. He doesn't seem like he just seems kind of like a scrawny little nerd. He doesn't seem very heroic to me. So I don't think he was very well cast. Also, much like the last episode, I didn't see any humor in this one. There really wasn't any sort of funniness or cleverness or wittiness in the episode. It was all just it was a very one note episode. So I didn't enjoy it for that reason either. So, I mean, we didn't, both of us, I guess, have qualms with this episode. We'll get there as we go through it, but let's start with the Crypt Keeper intro. I actually like this intro. And this right off the bat is my shriek of the week. Here we go. We open up on the Crypt Keeper, who's reading a Play Dead magazine, and it's a play on the word Playboy. So there's like these, naked ghouls, like decaying and rotting models, all erotically posed. He says, "Oops, looks like you caught the old Crypt Keeper checking out one of his ghouly magazines." So that is my absolute shriek of the week. I like the whole gag, and I really hope that somewhere out there they have that ghouly magazine. Wouldn't that be great if they actually put that in print and release that for a novelty kind of a souvenir thing?
Right. And then February is Miss Blob or something like just a ghouly monster.
You're right. Each month they can have a different ghoul. Yeah. Miss Blob. Miss Severed Head.
Yeah. Just silly, tropey characters. Yeah.
That would be fun. I would like that.
That would be, yeah.
So the Crypt Keeper goes on to say, after reading his magazine and we catch him, he says, "This gives you a little hint about tonight's dead time story. It's all about the way some guys just die over a pretty girl." So with that, we get the opening panel. And I always like to talk about the opening panel. This one here, there's a running theme with a lot of these episodes. Almost all of them are in three. I don't know enough about photos or art to describe this well, but there's three layers of depth. There's the foreground, the middle, and then there's the background, and there's something in each. So in this one here, in the background is a woman tied to a bed, and in the middle ground, there's a man pointing a gun at her, and that turns out to be the Miguel Ferrer character, but it even kind of looks like him. And then in the front, right, and I think the foreground, it's called, is a hand rising out of the ground. So, and it's a night scene. It's out in the forest. You see the trees out there, very, very darkly lit in the foreground. But then in the background, inside the house that this girl is tied to a bed in, it's well lit. So the background is well lit. The foreground is very, very dark. So it does distinguish the layers in this very well. And it's like I said, it's a running theme in all of these where they have something in each part of the depth of this. So I really like the depth that they implore in these opening panels.
I was glad you just said that because I never brought it up, but I did notice that as well. But also the colors are nice in these panels too lately. Apart from the three, foreground, midground, and the background, like you mentioned. I do like the color schemes every time. They're totally so fitting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do a good job with these. And it does look like at least one artist doing them, or at the very least, whoever's in charge of the art is very, very deliberate in the just the aesthetic way they're made, because they're all very, very similar. I always like looking at these. All right. So opening scene of this episode is a dark night on a mountain road. This car is driving, feverishly down the road. Inside is a man who's, driving, but at the same time trying to read a map. So he's trying to figure out where he's going, and he's very rushed. So he's furiously driving down this mountain road. This is Devlin, by the way. We learned that this is Devlin, but as of right now, he's not named. So Devlin finally arrives at this secluded cabin in the woods, and he's met by an ominous man wearing a trench coat. And this man turns out to be Mitch. Devlin asks Mitch if she is okay, not referring to who she is. Mitch says that she's fine, but he can't say the same for Devlin. He pulls out a gun and shoots him, just like that. We're already starting like full force action episode, right? So I think, if you're just watching this episode to start, this seems like a really good start. Unfortunately, it falls flat. So he shoots Devlin a couple times. Devlin runs away into the woods to try to escape, for some reason leaving his car completely behind. Sometimes they do that in horror movies or horror shows where the victim goes. I always just attribute that to being like in shock, right? If you were just shot and you're trying to get away, I would imagine the extra 10 seconds it would take to get into your car, start the car, put it in reverse, and then back up. Like all that time, the killer could catch up to you. So in his mind, he's probably thinking, I'll just run into the woods and hopefully I'll be safe. So that's how I justify those types of stupid decisions when I'm watching a horror movie. Anyway, as he's running into the woods, Devlin stumbles upon a grave that's already dug. And then at this point, Mitch catches up to him, shoots him a few more times, and buries him in that grave. So that's the start of this episode. Strong start. What do you think?
Start, yeah. That was that whole beginning portion of the episode is the only thing I really liked about it, because he's like, sorry you didn't have a headstone when you found the grave, and he's just talking about the 10 Commandments, how there's always a 10 Commandments on the headstone instead. And it was pretty funny because you get the idea like this guy might have slept with his wife or his girlfriend, and he's like, was like something with the neighbors, covet like the neighbors. I forget the exact phrase. Devlin, who's like, at gunpoint, also asks like, what about thou shalt not kill? And then Mitch is like, fuck it, and he just kills him. I thought it was so funny. He's all about this theme, and he just says, nah, I don't care about that one.
Right.
He just shoots them.
I only care about the 10 Commandments when you're breaking one of the commandments. Thou shalt not, covet another man's wife or something like that. Yeah. So there's definitely an affair happening here, right? That's right off the bat. You learn that. And you also get introduced to Mitch here, which is a great character. He's very, very, like I said, smarmy, sleazy. He plays Bob Morton again, basically. If you're familiar with RoboCop, he plays that same type of, slimy, sleazy guy. So, and I just love it. I love that type of character in this. He did it well. So I agree with you. That's the best part of the episode. When I started that up, I was like, oh, here we go. And then it just comes to a complete standstill and never really gets going again. The next scene here, you learn later on that this next scene is either a few days before or a few weeks before. You learn it's like a flashback, but it doesn't say that on the screen. It doesn't say, like previously or 10 days before. It doesn't say anything like that. It just cuts back to a studio, like a photo studio, where the photographer is taking a picture of the beautiful model, Stacy. And I suppose here's, again, my issue with the main character, Devlin. Very forgettable to me, very forgettable face. And in my infinite wisdom while watching this, I didn't get it was the same character. I didn't understand that. It was that night he was driving in a car. It was kind of, it was in a different situation. So when it flashed back to the brightly lit studio, I didn't connect it in my head. It was the same guy. So I was like, okay, this maybe is like the next day or something like that. Maybe, this unhinged dude kills somebody who was with his wife. Maybe he might also now try to kill this photographer is what I was thinking in my head. I didn't get it was the same person. Did you realize it was a flashback with the same person?
Well, I was going to say, I'm surprised that happened to you too. Cause I didn't want to say it, but for a moment I didn't connect that it was the same character. And I was like, oh, that's the same guy. Cause he was, the camera's in his face. It's not like I paid attention to who the photographer really was, It's like, whatever. But yeah, it took me a second to be like, oh, that's the same person.
yeah. And Devlin wasn't filmed in a way to make him seem like he was the main character either. It was clearly all eyes on Stacy. And then eventually Mitch comes into the scene. So Mitch takes over because Mitch is very much a leading man character. Miguel Ferrer really took his role seriously and really owned the presence of the room. So I wasn't paying much attention to the photographer, unfortunately. So anyway, like I said, Mitch comes in and he starts talking to Stacy and he starts kind of interrupting the whole photo shoot. And Devlin has to, basically say, hey, excuse me, we're trying to do a photo shoot here. Can you please step aside? At that point, Mitch mostly Mitch just gets upset and starts yelling at Devlin, basically tells him, why don't you take this camera, lather it up with some Vaseline and shove it up your ass. So yeah, Mitch just goes crazy on him and then leaves. And at that point, Devlin, tries to console Stacy after, basically, oh, by the way, I left this part out. We learn that this Mitch character is Devlin's fiance. He's also Devlin's manager. So that's what it was. He's got that role going on. So basically, Devlin, talks to Stacy and says, this guy seems kind of unhinged. And I'm not saying he does, but just in case he, gets physical with you, I want you to have a place to stay. So he gives her his key to the studio apartment where he lives. So if anything happens, I have an extra bed. I've got an extra TV. You can come over and you can have a safe place to stay. So she takes the key, and then that's kind of that's the end of that scene. By the way, in this scene, what did you think about the other people in the photography shoot or in the photo shoot?
I love them. Like, especially that one guy who had like 2 lines. I love them a lot.
Oh my gosh. With the beer? The guy with the beer? Is that who you're talking about? Beer. Oh my gosh. I love this guy. I was hoping he would be in the episode more.
Yeah, I thought he was. I thought he was like one of the core characters.
Oh, I take it back when I said this episode didn't have much comedy. That dude was it. That dude
was the height of it.
He's holding a beer in one hand and he tells the photographer, I was just thinking, I'm over here and I'm holding this beer in this hand. What if I instead held the beer in my other hand? Because I'm like, I'm here to party.
And he's like completely blocking Stacy behind him with a beer.
That was pretty good. Yeah, we needed more of that character. We needed more of man holding beer. We needed that. If he could like spring up a few more times in the scenes going forward, that would have done a lot to bring some levity to the episode. It would have had scenes have something to look forward to see, because watching the episode again, once you know the gist of the episode and you enter a scene and you know what the point of the scene is, it's boring just to watch it all unfold. But if you can throw in a few little punchlines here and there, it would have done a lot to make the episode more watchable. Also, so you and I both had an issue where we did not realize that this was a flashback. So I wonder how effective this episode would have been had we just started right here on this scene and left out the whole beginning. You think the intro was worth it, or do you think it would have been nice just to start right here?
Well, because I think we needed the intro to like give an idea, like, hey, there's gonna be a twist or something here, like with the whole interesting sequence with him dying in the grave and whatnot, and they just leave it. It's like, oh, what was that about? But I think it could have started without it, but I think they did on purpose because they just wanted to like hint that there's going to be a twist. Because I had an issue with the twist last episode.
It almost seemed like that intro was a way to pad the time to make the episode a little bit longer, because really they got to tell that whole scene twice or 1.5 times, because the second time they kind of go through it quickly. But it did seem like a way to kind of just have that scene go through twice. Anyway, so the next scene is, I don't know if it's that night or a few nights later. I got the impression it was that night. Devlin's at his apartment and he's kind of falling asleep at the couch watching TV, and Stacy ends up using that key to let herself into the apartment, and he gets up to welcome her, and on his way to going to her, he taps a button on the floor with his foot, and then like this backdrop gets projected onto the wall behind them that looks like a sunset on a beach or something like that, with all kinds of like bright, orange hues and very, very romantic sunset scene. And when that popped up, I didn't get it. I didn't get that his apartment was also the studio. I didn't get that part. So I just assumed like, oh, he's dreaming. Like this is like a very ethereal backdrop for his dream, and he's going to wake up and then something's going to be going on. But he wasn't dreaming. This was actually it was just kind of it looked nice and it was kind of neat, but it wasn't clear to me what was going on. And it was at this point when they started to embrace, it was at this point when I realized, oh, that's the same dude. So at this point in the episode, I did start to realize that we're in a flashback. So there's that, I suppose. So anyway, the two of them embrace, and they basically, they say, "Oh, it was pretty forward of you coming to my apartment." And the other one said, "Oh no, I think she said it was forward of you giving me the key." And then he said, "Oh, it was forward of you showing up." And then they're like, "Well, since we're being so forward," and then they kind of get together and they kiss. They have a passionate kiss that appears to be on a beach during a beautiful sunset. So he uses this opportunity to give her a necklace. Why he had this necklace waiting for her, I don't know. Maybe this man already had some intentions. But he gives her a necklace, and he says, basically, an old blind lady gave this necklace to me, and she told me that if you make a promise while holding it, no matter what, you're going to keep that promise. So he gives her the necklace, and when he does, he notices that she has like a bruise on her chest area. So it looked like maybe Mitch got, physical with her. So he holds a necklace and he makes a promise to her that he'll always be there to protect her. This is kind of, by this point, you should be getting, oh, okay, this is what's happening in the episode. So it kind of takes away from the twist because it's pretty heavy handed. But at the same time, this scrawny dude in glasses is holding that, making such a bold claim. I'm going to protect you from this violent man. I don't buy it from this guy. He just seems so pathetic to me. I don't buy him as a leading man. I don't buy him as a hero to this episode. So I didn't like the main character is what I'm getting at. And of course, their whole encounter, meeting and kissing and exchanging of the necklace, all of this stuff is happening with a wide open window where Mitch is outside watching from the street. So Mitch is onto them. He knows what's going on.
I mean, like you said, if he wasn't like the hero type, maybe it's the old blind lady, realistically, who gave him the necklace in the first place. So whoever he protects, as she was protecting, realistically, wasn't him. Because he's the courier.
You think he got it from somebody else who made a promise to protect him?
Yeah, or something like that. Like maybe it was like a chain of events.
Oh, that's a really interesting point. I would like a little prequel to this episode. I like that idea of that necklace and preserving a promise. Cool. Yeah. If they can keep that, if they can dig up that necklace and do it like a part 2 to this episode, I do like that. Kind of like the monkey's paw, you make a wish on the monkey's paw and then it kind of grants your wish, but then it kind of with a twist. The necklace in and of itself can be its own thing. Yeah, I think that they could have kept going with that. Because this is maybe, in the whole lore of this necklace, this might be one little story that's just kind of bland and drab, but then maybe there's other stories that are very grand and, anyway.
That's true.
So in a following scene, I think it might be the next day. Who knows? It could be a week later. Devlin, the whole timing of this episode, by the way, is very obscure. It doesn't tell you it's a flashback. It doesn't tell you how long ago this flashes back to. It doesn't tell you how many days elapse. It's very, very, you just kind of make it up as you go. Okay, this is in my mind. Okay, this is the next day. So Devlin receives a phone call and he answers it just as it's going to voicemail. And the call is coming from Mitch. Mitch tells him basically, Stacy's in trouble. I can't tell you what's up, but she's over here at this secluded cabin and she won't talk to me. And I think that you're the only person that she's willing to talk to. Can you come help? Well, Devlin, of course, is willing to help. So he drops everything he's doing and leaves right away. And cut to the start of the episode. At this point, he's driving down the mountain road. He meets up with Mitch. He gets shot and he gets buried. This is where the episode comes full circle. It is weird that it looked like he was getting the call like in the early afternoon. Like it was very, very bright outside. It could have even been like morning, like late morning, early afternoon. Yeah. And then the next scene he's driving and it's like dead of night. Again, the timing in this episode is weird. They could have done more to make it seem more make it flow better rather than just kind of be compartmentalized. Because what it seemed like to me was it's just like it's very choppy. It's very, very choppy, the whole episode. It didn't flow very well.
I think because they kind of like fast forwarded how he came to the cabin and gets shot. Like they didn't like dramatize. I think it'd be funny if they made it like more dramatic with flashbacks. Or he shows the cabin, gets shot, and all that stuff. But it just like kind of fast forwarded everything. He's like, oh, skip to that point, skip to that point. But I think it'd been funnier just to have like a fade out. And that kind of slow mo, and it goes to like, the moment like he gets shot. he's at the graveyard and whatnot, and like him shoveling. It's been funnier, I feel like, than just like it skipping like that and chopping it up like that, like what you mentioned.
Yeah, it was basically all the recycled footage right? Just
Yeah,
basically like a
it was,
montage
edited
of that
or-
night. So
Yeah,
the next scene is of Stacy. She's back at her apartment, basically hers and Mitch's apartment, right? She's back home, and she's really worried about Devlin. She's, trying to get a hold of him. She's been calling him all week, and he hasn't been getting back to her. And this is the first time we do get the hint that it's been about a week, because at this point, Mitch walks in and he says, "Are you still trying to get a hold of Devlin? It's been over a week," I think he said. And she says, "I'm really worried." And he says, "I wouldn't be worried. He probably just left. He probably left with some other model. Girls like you are just a 9x10. I think he calls them
8x10.
8x10, right?
Yeah.
Girls like you are just 8x10 to him." So at this point, Mitch is being very manipulative, right? He knows that Devlin is dead, and he's basically saying, "Look, if I'm wrong and Devlin comes back, then I won't say anything. You two can run away together and you can have your own thing, and I won't do anything. But if he doesn't come back, then I think you owe it to yourself to give us another chance." Of course, Devlin isn't coming back, right? Mitch knows this. So Mitch is, being very manipulative in what I think is like top tier Miguel Ferrer acting in this point. Very, very sleazy thing to do, but I liked it. It was well done. And at the end of the scene, because she's thinking about it, she's thinking maybe Devlin did leave, right? What if Mitch is right? Maybe I should give Mitch another chance. But you can tell she doesn't want to, though, because at the very end, Mitch leans forward for a kiss. And as he does, he kind of rests his hand against her shoulder, and she flinches. He flinches away from his touch. So she's not happy with him still. She's rightfully scared of him. He's abusive. So, right, this isn't the right man for her, but she's the right woman for him. So he'll do anything for her. Very toxic, abusive relationship. And also, during this conversation, she's actually holding the necklace that was given to her by Devlin. So she's got Devlin on her mind while she's got Mitch right in front of her, trying to coerce her back to be with him.
I did not notice that she flinched during his touch. I think I was just more thinking about how like manipulative he was being with his words. And I didn't notice that moment where she flinched. Yeah, I'm trying to recall.
Yeah, it wasn't like a huge flinch or like a gasp
subtle.
even. It was just kind of a real subtle, almost like a shudder. She more like shuddered when he touched.
Oh, okay.
So after this scene, Stacy ends up going to Devlin's apartment and kind of looking around, snooping around to see, he's not there, but none of his things are put away. So she starts to already get suspicious, and she comes across the voicemail. And she pushes the voicemail, and it starts to play their conversation, Mitch and Devlin's conversation. And before the message can get too far, Mitch is there, and he shoves the answering machine off the table. And this was, I think, the only jump scare in the entire episode. I don't know if you jumped, Godden, but I did.
No.
I was startled when this happened. It was so loud, and it was... it startled me. It was an effective jump scare.
It was cool that he appeared behind her just like that. Like, how did he's so smooth at that. He's just too good.
Yeah.
He just teleported there. Yeah.
He must have been following her. At this point, he grabs her and he just subdues her somehow. But I do like this scene though, when he grabs her and they start to kind of, spin around together frantically. Like she's struggling and he's struggling to hold on to her. And while they're having the struggle, there's a shot from overhead, and it shows the ceiling fan also spinning. So they're spinning on the floor below while they struggle, and the ceiling fan is spinning up. It was such an effective shot to show how things are just spiraling out of control. I thought that was a fantastic shot. So I got to give a shout out to the either the director or the cinematographer or whoever it was who decided to have that shot like that. That was really, really good.
Right. When she was in the apartment, and she was snooping on what happened, the noises they use when she went through his grocery bag when she opened up the ice cream was so gooey and ploppy. It wasn't like a normal sound. It made it seem like it's been there for months or something. I don't know. It was just such a weird noise, but it worked.
Oh, I didn't notice.
It's like a disgusting noise. I'm like, for ice cream.
I didn't notice. Yeah, but when he got the call initially, when Devlin had initially gotten the call, he was going shopping and he was coming back with a bag of groceries. And that bag of groceries is still on the table. So she kind of starts to rummage through it. I did notice that there was ice cream there. I was like in her mind, she's thinking he wouldn't just leave this here, ice cream and just things melting in the bag. Right. I did notice. I didn't notice the sound effect though. So maybe that is a reason to go back and watch this episode just to get that gloppy, gloopy sound.
It's so nasty.
The Foley artists must have had fun with that one. So for the finale of this episode, which by the way, I mean, since he gave her the necklace, at that moment, I understood what the point of the episode was. I got the twist. That was the twist. Him giving her the necklace. That was like the aha moment. So finally, when we get to this scene is where we finally get to where I already knew we were going to end up. So that's another thing that made this episode boring, was the twist was so predictable. So back at the secluded cabin, Mitch ties her up, and did you see also he put duct tape on her mouth? Did you see the duct tape he put on her mouth? It was like the tiniest strip of duct tape that barely was like the width of her actual mouth.
Oh,
and
that's
it was
funny.
just like resting on top of her face. It wasn't even like taped to her. It was so.
Yeah, no, I didn't
they made no effort to make this look at all like real duct tape. It was just basically a strip of like duct tape looking material resting on top of her mouth area.
Well,
I got a good laugh out of that.
Those budget cuts, Kenny. They had to put the rest of the budget somewhere.
Right. The rest of the budget went into the makeup effects, which when we get there, they were good. They were really good.
They were good. Yeah.
So she's tied to the bed with a piece of what looks like duct tape resting on top of her mouth, and Mitch opens up a briefcase and takes out a gun. So he's planning on going through with, getting away with murder by murdering the only other person who knows what you did. And at that point, right, that's where she's in danger. So from the outside, right, from that grave that we saw earlier, we see Devlin's hand rise up out of the ground, and he digs himself out of the grave. And when he pulls himself out, we get a fantastic shot of his face. He opens up his mouth, and you see the skin kind of dangling, like there's holes in his cheeks, but the pieces of skin that are still attached stretch out over his jaw. Oh, it looks so good. Such good makeup effects. And there's even like clumps of dirt falling like from his whole, like everything looked really, really, really good. And it was well lit. It was at night, and the moonlight shining through the trees made, the inconsistent shadows, and just everything looked really, really good. I like the look of this finale of this episode. So once Devlin frees himself from his grave, Mitch does hear something outside. And while he goes down to investigate, he gets grabbed by Devlin, and Mitch shoots the corpse. But of course, the corpse is unaffected. And right. Mitch does manage to escape. And this is where the whole episode turns upside down. We have Mitch running into the woods while Devlin is following. And then Mitch ends up stumbling upon the grave. Devlin grabs Mitch, pulls him into the grave, and then he starts pulling dirt in to bury them both together. And this was also, I felt, well done, because we have Miguel Ferrer delivering some great screaming. He's absolutely like just blood-curdling screams as he's being buried alive. And even though the dialogue I felt like was stupid in this part, because he's being buried alive. We can see that. He's screaming. He's alive, right? He's alive. He's being buried. But just in case you weren't sure he was being buried alive, he's screaming, "I'm not dead! I'm not dead!" That was a funny thing to be yelling while you're being buried alive.
I think it's like a denial thing. It's like he knows he's gonna die. It's just slowly losing him. He's just like, "I'm not dead yet. I'm not dead." Like he's just crying for help at that point. Like, it's tough, right? I did like that. He just had him in chokehold, and I thought it was really cool that he did just start pulling the dirt towards them. I thought, oh, cool way to kill them.
It was a pretty brutal. It was a brutal ending. Yeah. It was pretty brutal. I think in this case, Mitch more or less got what he deserved. Very good. Very, very good. Dark justice for Mitch there. All right, and that brings us back to the Crypt Keeper, who is sitting at his table, and he says, "Aw, wasn't that romantic?" Ugh. He did not like the romantic part of that episode. He says, "I would have called tonight's fear fable a boy meets ghoul story, except the boy was the ghoul this time. Right, kiddies?" And just like that, we have ourselves another episode. Godden,
yeah.
What did you think?
I just like the intro and then the ending of it. Everything in between was kind of okay, but I get that they have to still showcase like how the story unfolds, but just the way it was just like wasn't the best. If they had the same passion as the intro and the ending they did for the middle of it, I think it'd been like a banger. But I don't know, it was simple, honestly. Like I said, Miguel Ferrer really carried that whole episode. It felt like
absolutely
his character was the best character. Yeah,
absolutely he did. Yeah, I like the way you put that. The same passion in the beginning and the end. Yeah, when it was right. All the scenes at the cabin, basically, all the scenes at the cabin were well done. Everything else was just so bland and boring, and the characters didn't help to liven it up a bit. The one funny character we did have, Mr. Beer in the Hand. I wish we would have had more of him.
He shows up at the end, just drinking while he's just, right. I'm not dead.
maybe he should have still been at the studio. What if I held the beer like this instead? What if I held it with these two fingers and had these two fingers sticking out? Like, he could just be really going crazy on that. That would have been really good. So it also is the second time so far in Tales from the Crypt that we've had a whole, corpse rising from the grave theme. It was very similar to, what was the name of that episode we just had? Till Death, I think. Is that what it was called? Till Death? Yeah, that was the same thing where, she comes out of the grave and she doesn't try to kill anybody, but she rises from the grave and she's a corpse. And a lot of things were very, very similar. So it feels like it was kind of already done, kind of like, oh, we've already kind of seen something like this. I don't mind 2 or 3 episodes that have similar elements, but when they're this close together, like we just finished watching that episode. Now here's another one. So it felt a little too close in proximity to another episode that was very, very similar to it. So that was also another reason that kind of made it boring. Also, I don't know what came out first, but Creepshow also had something very similar to this with, zombies rising from the grave, something to tide you over. It was with Leslie Nielsen. Leslie Nielsen buried the couple in the beach, but he left their heads exposed. So basically when the tide comes in, they drown and they die right there in the sand. And they end up rising from the grave to come back and get their revenge, but kind of a similar-esque story. It also reminded me of Ghost, that Patrick Swayze Demi Moore movie where basically he gets killed, right? But he's a ghost and he basically, through the afterlife, helps his love conquer over or protects her against the people who are out to try to kill her. So it's similar to that as well. But Ghost was done better. I'd rather watch Ghost. I'd rather watch a full movie Ghost rather than this episode all over again. So, okay. Well, yeah, I feel like we're dumping on this episode, but you know what? Not everyone can be a banger. I am going to give this, if I had to score this episode right now, which I'm going to do, I would give this 2.5. I'm not dead yet.
In the half part, he dies. I'm not dead yet. Yeah. Re-theme with this episode, there wasn't like a lot of, because I know you like horrors where there's like a brutality or like some sort of like gore, but this one didn't have any gore for you, huh?
I mean, it had the ghoul, had the nice practical effects of the zombie ghoul rising out of the grave. I really admired that work, but the rest of the episode was just it just weighed it down. If I could just watch the first scene and the last scene and that was it, maybe.
Yeah, I might just go just a tad bit higher. I think it's okay. It's not like the first I would show people, but it might be like the second or third episode I show people. But I was gonna give it just a flat 3.
A 3? Okay.
Yeah, just a 3. 3 commandments,
3 commandments.
Deserves.
I like that. All right. Well, there you have it. 2.5 and a 3. So that brings us towards the end of this episode. I want to remind you all about Horrorespondence. If you want to reach out to us for any reason, either make a correction in something that we got wrong or add to something that you think we're onto, or maybe you have a different take on what's going on here, reach out to us, comment, and I'm more than happy to share those comments right here on the podcast. And there's lots of other podcasts out there, by the way. If you're into this kind of Tales from the Crypt rehashing, there's a couple of other great podcasts that I've been listening to myself regarding Tales from the Crypt. Creeps of the Crypt on YouTube. They have their episodes come out monthly, and they're on season 4, actually. So they're quite a bit ahead of us. They've been doing this for a lot longer. So if you want to kind of race through, more episodes all at once, check out Creeps of the Crypt. They're okay. They're pretty good. I've been listening to them as well. There's also the Crypt Keepers podcast. These guys do some heavy duty lifting. They do a lot of research before they do their episodes, and they also read the comics and they compare the episode to the comic. But there's a lot more that you can get from them besides just a couple of knuckleheads sharing their opinion. And I've been listening to outside of Tales from the Crypt, I've been listening to a lot of Haddonfield Radio. Haddonfield Radio is a podcast where they just watch horror franchises and they basically do fan commentaries of them. Fantastic. So much fun. I already watched all of the Halloweens. They also have all the Nightmare on Elm Streets. I'm making my way through all of the Friday the 13th. So they're doing those as well. So a lot of fun there if you want to check that out. And last but not least, I still like to give this shout out, even though it's not even horror related, to Teach Her Amma. It's a Futurama podcast, and it's actually hosted by one of the co-hosts is Kayla, who is the girlfriend of John, who is he was on our podcast a few episodes ago. So if you go back and watch Cutting Cards, that episode, John was our guest host, and his girlfriend is also doing Teach Her Amma. So I like to give that shout out as well. All right, and if you're following along with us, next week we'll be talking about Season 2, Episode 7, The Sacrifice. So if you want to follow along, watch that episode before next week, and then you'll be ready to hear us go on about it. My name's Kenny. I can be found at 2 Bad About Kenny. That's TOO Bad About Kenny, as well as the number 2 Bad About Kenny on YouTube and Twitch. Godden, how about you?
Well, they can find me on Twitch at UAPPO, then the number 6. I occasionally stream games, I find, horror games, adventure games, any kind of games usually. And you can also reach us at our Twitter. It should just be Cryptikers. So we should have updates there, or if you want to have any kind of interactions, we could also be, interactive on Twitter. All
right. And I want to thank you for taking care of Twitter, or X as people call it nowadays, because I am not good with that kind of stuff. All right, everybody. Until next week, enjoy yourselves, be safe, and go watch some Tales from the Crypt. All right. Good night, kiddies.
Well, how was that for a scream, boys and ghouls?